has described Miller as a cooperating witness. How is this factoring, if at all, into how teams are evaluating him?
Notice if Ime Udoka was not at...
Excuse me. I listened to you. She had an obligation to ask those questions. She did her job.
It's been 4 months since we've last discussed Malika Andrews on this YouTube channel. She's quite literally becoming the Antonio Brown of the TheFlightMike channel, because it seems like every couple of months she happens to do something that pisses off the masses and makes her look like a freaking hypocrite. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Leading up to the season, I spammed predictions at you guys consistently. Michael Porter Jr. needed over 5.5 rebounds in his season debut. Tyreek Hill just needed a touchdown, and Steph Curry just needed 1 point. Shout out to those that tailed. For those of you guys that were able to make money, we're giving away our picks for free all season long for the NBA and NFL on my Instagram at TheFlightMike. And right now, when you use promo code microphone on PrizePicks, they'll match your deposit up until $100. Thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Malika Andrews started her career as an investigative journalist and slowly became the host of NBA Today and NBA Countdown. And my issue with Malika Andrews is it seems like she would go through tremendous lengths to dig up people's skeletons, even though sometimes they may be deemed unnecessary. And the first instance of this was none other when Adrian Payne passed away.
Former Michigan State star Adrian Payne was shot and killed in Orlando, Florida, early Monday morning. He was waived by the Magic after he was named in a report by ESPN's Outside the Lines that he'd been involved in an alleged assault at Michigan State in 2010. No charges were filed in that case.
Now, if you guys remember, about a year and a half ago, Ime Udoka was dismissed from his position as the Boston Celtics head coach. Well, at least at the time he was suspended. Eventually, it would become a full-on firing. This was after Ime Udoka led the Boston Celtics to an NBA championship when an improper relationship took place between himself and a Boston Celtics staffer. And in this case, the Boston Celtics just decided to move on from Ime Udoka. I'm sure it was very painful for them, and they decided to bring in a brand new head coach, Joe Mazzulla. And I guess this is the best example of not being able to win no matter what with Malika Andrews, because immediately Malika Andrews would start going into detail in regards to Joe Mazzulla's past, some of it being incredibly unnecessary, some of it including a time where he wasn't even of legal age.
Be remiss not to also mention that Mazzulla was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. He pled guilty, paid a fine, and then again in 2009 for domestic battery after an incident at Morgantown Bar. The domestic battery case never went to trial. It was settled in August of 2009. He paid a $100 fine and court costs, plus had to do 40 hours of community service. Now, that was 13 years ago. He settled and paid both fines. So, Woj, why are the Celtics choosing him as their next head coach?
I mean, look, there are some really bad things that I believe are worth bringing up. I don't believe bringing up a fight that Joe Mazzulla had in a bar when he was in college, when he was already punished for that, was necessary right when he got the greatest opportunity of his career. This also included her virtue signaling on her show and kicking off anyone that disagreed with her.
We are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
And when Stephen A. Smith was being honest about his POV, Malika Andrews started gaslighting him.
It said in the numerous news reports it was a consensual relationship that violated organizational policy. So only he is in violation of the company policy. The woman who elected to have a consensual relationship with him is not in violation. He gets to get mentioned and put on Front Street. We don't know who she is.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. stop.
And then when Kendrick Perkins disagreed with Malika, of course, in the most irritating fashion, like a little child kept saying,
Kendrick, stop.
And then kicked off Kendrick from her show.
Yes, Ime Udoka was wrong. We get that. His punishment, he deserved that, and whatever else follows, I hate it for him, but he put himself in this position. But why are the other people getting left off the hook?
Well,
that's the problem that I have right now. Everybody got to be held accountable.
Transparency is what will rule the day here. And so without having all of the information, it is unfair and irresponsible of us to go and to speculate on that.
And look, man, my personal philosophy on society is people disagree on stuff. And the purpose of sports debate shows is to have people that disagree with one another present their arguments in a coherent and cohesive fashion. And that way you're representing every side that is watching your content. But in this particular case, she just shut down anyone's argument that she didn't agree with, maybe because she thought it was dangerous for this information to infect the minds of the viewers. And finally, most recently, I was able to catch Malika Andrews going into painful detail on Brandon Miller the moment Brandon Miller was drafted for a case that he was complicit in. On the greatest day of Brandon Miller's life, Malika Andrews said this.
Miller, his name did surface in court testimony involving a case where his former teammate and another man, they've been indicted for capital murder in the fatal shooting of 23-year-old Jamia Harris in January. The University of Alabama has described Miller as a cooperating witness. How is this factoring, if at all, into how teams are evaluating him?
Yeah, Malika, part of the...
I don't think it would be brought up at all if it wasn't for Malika just bringing it up on national television right now.
By the way, I just realized when this clip came out, we were at 763,000 subscribers. We're at 865,000 subscribers now. So I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for all the support you guys have been giving this channel, because that was 5 months ago. But that aside, you can see the problem here. Digging up skeletons in people's pasts and bringing them up in the most inappropriate times. And if this was a one-off instance, then that's one thing, but I think I've given you 5 examples up until this point. Now, you might be thinking,
we know this information already. Why are you bringing it up again?
Well, this time, ironically, it's not the fact that Malika Andrews said something, it's the fact that Malika Andrews is saying nothing. If you go on Twitter right now, Malika Andrews is going absolutely viral for being quiet about the most viral case in the NBA over the past week. On Thanksgiving Day, while we were stuffing our faces with turkey, watching football, and arguing with our conspiracy theorist uncle, which I'm sure we all have a crazy conspiracy theorist uncle, or is that just me? Let me know in the comment section down below. Josh Giddey was going viral on the internet for all the wrong reasons, being accused of being involved in an improper relationship with a 16-year-old girl. Now, we made our own videos on this in the past couple of days, and we'll bring you an update whenever we have a major update in regards to it, and we'll leave a link to it in the end screen if you guys want more information about it. But the short version is Josh Giddey's from Australia, where the age of consent is 16, plays in OKC, where the age of consent is 16. The girl is rumored to be from California, and there's some speculation that Josh Giddey might have met her before the age of 16, or may have even flown her out. Now, again, this is all speculation. I don't want to pass that off as fact, but that's why some people have a problem with this situation despite the legal age of consent. And there's some pretty significant evidence suggesting that these two were involved, whether it's this video from Josh Giddey.
What's up, man? It's Josh. Be with your beautiful sister. Good luck for your season. You're going to Sacramento soon for a game, so all the best of luck. We're going to come up and watch you. Take care of business.
This video that includes Josh Giddey.
What's up, my man? We're at the club. Me and my girl gotta head back to mine.
The girl taking a selfie of Josh Giddey holding her from the back, and probably the craziest piece of evidence we have is Josh Giddey posing behind the girl as she takes a selfie and captioned it, "I just slept with Josh Giddey." Don't get me wrong, there's a guy that may have saved Josh Giddey in this situation, because there's this footage of Josh Giddey in the club with her, which I'm assuming it is her. So if this girl was able to make it into the club despite not being 18 years old, then I guess in some capacity it could save Josh Giddey. But from my perception of this, it seems like these two were involved with each other for a while, but some people think it was a one-off night. Now, why am I bringing all this up? Malika Andrews, who is the queen of negativity, who loved digging up a 14-year-old incident from Joe Mazzulla's past, who loved bringing up a unfortunate incident when Adrian Payne passed away, who loves virtue signaling on her show and arguing with Stephen A, Giddey, who brought up an incident that Brandon Miller was complicit in on the greatest day of his life, has remained quiet on this situation. I want you to understand how significant this is. I mean, this is a story that YouTube channels, news channels, Instagram meme pages, reporters, everybody has picked up this story and discussed this story. But for some reason, in this particular instance, Malika Andrews is quiet about it. Now, Torian Rain Reloaded tweeted out, Malika Andrews still quiet on Josh Giddey. No surprise there. I'd expect that from her. Des Bryant, one of my favorite players on the Dallas Cowboys, said, at Malika Andrews, you went out of your way to crucify Brandon Miller on draft day over something he didn't even do. Why haven't you said anything about Josh Giddey? I advise you not to make this a black or white thing. Your parents really raised you wrong. Just because you went to a private school doesn't make you better. You appeal, and I know you're kind. You're just a puppet. I don't know how a former or current NBA player could sit there across from you and look at you with some kind of respect. The crazy thing is, Malika's been disrespected for this before. Giannis Antetokounmpo famously walked away from her after she asked him a question.
At this point, sometimes it takes experience. I'm wondering if now that you have some of that experience, if you see more validity to that point, or what you think about that now that you've gone through it.
There's a lot of people that are upset at Malika Andrews for this double standard, and I could understand why. I just felt like it was interesting that she didn't bring up anything at all whatsoever. Okay, the update on this story is hilarious because it seems like you guys did your thing and the internet did their thing and they pressed her into finally talking about it. And she doesn't really look like the happiest person on earth discussing this, but I'll let you judge for yourself.
That Thunder guard Josh Giddey had an improper relationship with an underage girl. In a since-deleted post, an anonymous social media user claimed a girl who was seen with Giddey in videos and images, some of which include explicit captions, was a junior in high school at the time. Giddey, who's 21, he declined to comment on Friday, and despite the serious allegations, Giddey is yet to miss a game this season, and Thunder coach Mark Daigneault, he said he will continue to be in the lineup, saying, quote, just with the information we have at this point, that is the decision we've made. It's obviously a league matter at this point, and the ball is in their court on that. Now, a league spokesperson told me this morning that the NBA is still in the process of gathering information, and we will continue to update this story as the news develops.
And despite this, people are still really freaking mad at Malika Andrews. There's even tweets comparing the way she is talking about Joe Mazzulla's incident to the Josh Giddey incident and when Brandon Miller got drafted 6 months ago. And when you watch all of these clips together, it more or less sounds like she's just reading from a teleprompter. I don't think there's a way to indicate how she has more energy for one story than the other, but I will say it's really odd that the moment Joe Mazzulla got hired, she brought up this story that happened 14 years ago when Joe Mazzulla was in college. On the greatest day of Brandon Miller's life, when he's being selected number 2 overall in the NBA draft, how is this incident that Brandon Miller didn't even get charged for going to affect Brandon Miller's draft stock? Which, by the way, he's about to get drafted. Why is it even necessary to bring it up at that point? Obviously, the Hornets looked into it. Obviously, they did their homework on him. So the fact that she brought up those incidents immediately during really inappropriate situations, at least in my opinion, on national television in the case of Brandon Miller, and then kind of took her sweet time in the Josh Giddey situation was a little odd to me. And that's the part that I will criticize her for. But maybe I'm just different. Whenever a story comes out, I try to get it out to you guys immediately. Even in the case of the Josh Giddey situation, I brought you guys that video on my birthday during Thanksgiving. Nothing was going to stop me. But I guess in the case of Malika Andrews, maybe she needs to wait for ESPN's approval. Maybe ESPN gives her her stories. I'm not necessarily sure. So let me know in the comment section down below. How do you guys feel about this? Do you think there's a double standard in play? What do you think Malika Andrews' intentions are? Do you think the network told her you're not allowed to talk about it? But that wouldn't make sense because Mark Daigneault was actually asked questions about this situation. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.